beautiful people. Welcome back to our life in Kosovo. So we are in a new recording setting today because my neighbors have a never-ending construction happening. We can't let that stop us. So I apologize in advance for any environmental sounds that you may hear, but this is the quietest space I could find today. I'm super excited to show you this video because I've worked super hard on it, and it is the first video of what's going to be a series focusing on the street dog situation in Prishtina. Each episode is going to focus on a different player of this crisis, if we can call it that. So this video is specifically about my experience. Ever since I moved here 9 months ago, there have been a number of situations that I have encountered which have really shaped my experience and my understanding of the situation here. So I'm going to go like chapter by chapter, just telling you about what these situations were like. All right, there are a few things that I want to highlight before starting. Number one, there are stray dogs in basically every country in the world. This is not an isolated problem for Kosovo. All the surrounding countries have a similar situation, so I don't want Kosovo to feel attacked by me. I just live here and I want to shed light on an issue that I am very passionate about. Número dos, there is a very particular historical, cultural, and political situation in Kosovo which I do not take for granted. I am very aware of the limitations that they face. However, that does not change anything of what I am going to talk about in this video. And finally, number three, and most important, I want to refute something. Apparently now, I guess with this video, I am officially an animal activist. That is what I am called here because I am constantly speaking out about animals. So I guess now I'm an activist. But I want to refute the idea that by caring or showing empathy or helping an animal in need, you are doing that at the expense of helping a person. It is not a competition. Just because I am being kind to an animal does not mean I'm gonna turn around and be an asshole to a human. Empathy is not a limited resource. It is infinite, people. So, just because I care about animals does not mean I don't care about humans. Okay, so without further ado, hit that subscribe button and here goes the storytelling. Enjoy. All right, so the first story that I want to share with you is the story of Loreta. This was my first encounter with the street dogs of Prishtina, and it was the very first month when I arrived. I was a complete rookie and naive to the reality of street dogs, and I really thought that I was going to be able to find this adorable puppy a home. So I found her at the park one day, and I thought she's way too cute not to be adopted. So we named her Loreta, and I took her home. A month later, she was twice her size, and I just couldn't keep her anymore, so I had to put her in foster care. Foster care in Prishtina are businesses where people will basically rent you a space in their backyard to keep your dog with dozens of other dogs. But this will cost you 100 euros a month plus food. Just to give you a little bit of context, you can find a pretty decent apartment for 150 to 200 euros a month. So this is like half of your month's rent. The thing about rescuing a dog is that once you take them off the streets and into your own home, you're supposedly stripping them of their street dog instincts, and you cannot release them back later because they will not survive. Either they will be hit by a car or attacked by a pack of dogs because they no longer have a pack of their own, or they will freeze or starve. So basically, until I figured out what to do with Loreta, I had to keep her in foster care. This was painfully expensive, and I just really needed to find a solution as fast as possible. I won't go into detail about everything I had to do to get Loreta ready to travel abroad because there are way too many steps. I could make a whole video just about that. But basically, I ended up having to pay for a lot of things. The bill got very expensive. It ended up being 3 months of foster care, food, cost of vaccine, which is 3 vaccines plus the rabies shot, We had to spay her, and I was able to fundraise 300 euros to pay for her transportation. After 6 months in my care, Loreta finally made it to Frankfurt, Germany, where she was adopted by a family. Once Loreta was shipped successfully, I learned many lessons that it is not financially viable to pick up dogs off the streets. There are simply way too many dogs, and it's way too expensive. I can also not afford to bring them to my home, even if that's exactly what I want to do every single time I see a tiny little puppy crossing the street by himself. This experience taught me so much about the rescuing process, but also about what the local culture and the attitudes are towards street dogs. Everything I'm about to say now is obviously a major generalization. When you generalize, that means that there are many people that don't fall under this description. However, this has been the experience that I have lived and what I have perceived by living in the same place of what is predominantly Albanian culture and beliefs. The vast majority of Albanian people are afraid of dogs. They are perceived as dirty and dangerous, and the way that these beliefs are ingrained into children from a very young age is very clear every single time I go to the park, and people are just running away from my dog, who, by the way, is an extremely well-trained and domesticated schnauzer. Particularly in the city of Prishtina, where there is truly an uncontrolled epidemic of stray dogs reproducing, dogs are treated as pests. I really think the situation of stray dogs in Prishtina has entered this very toxic, never-ending cycle. Dogs keep reproducing and living in the streets. They are cold and hungry and rejected by humans, so they become violent. There will be the case of a hungry dog attacking a human, and these few stories are enough to justify what seems to me like generational traumas towards dogs. Something else I have noticed is that although younger generations are becoming fonder of having dogs as pets, so far this seems to be the case only when it comes to specific breeds. So having a dog of a certain breed is a sign of status and money. People will spend hundreds of euros on purchasing a husky or a pure breed pit bull, but they would rarely consider adopting a street dog. So one time I was having a conversation with someone who was telling me that they were looking to buy a dog just like mine. When I asked them why they wouldn't consider adopting, they answered that they wanted the dog to be inside the house. A street dog, even if adopted and trained from a very young age, would always be a street dog. Because people are buying dogs more for the status that they bring than for the love for animals, it is very common to see 100% pure breeds roaming the streets of Prishtina. People buy them, keep them while they're cute and small, and then realize how much work it is, and then they dump them at the local park. So somehow a chow chow found its way into street life. The only explanation is that somebody bought him and then dumped him. Ben? Or like this dog that I see at the park all the time, he's definitely either full breed or 50% husky. After living here for a few months and better understanding the local context, it became very clear that these dogs have no possibility for local adoption. And sending them internationally is just honestly way too complicated and not a solution considering how many dogs there are. So the question is still what to do. What is the solution? And that's what I aim to figure out with this series. But in the meantime, coping with these feelings and the need to do something, I guess evolved for me trying to bring every single dog home into just buying sacks of food and basically just feeding all the dogs that I could out of the back of my trunk. I call this the birth of the crazy dog lady. This is the park by my house. It's called Tagbasha, and this is where we come multiple times a week to Loreta. And there's always a handful of stray dogs that are like the local dogs. They live here. And I just gave them some food. So what I've started to do is that I always carry a big bag of food with me. And I just basically go around feeding the dogs of Prishtina. And Loreta hates it because she's a greedy bitch. Also, show me your ears. Someone cut your ears so that you look like a bear. Here. See? The ear? And the other one too. And then they dumped you on the street probably. Another day in Prishtina, I was just driving back home from the gym and I saw 3 tiny puppies that are not even like 2 months old. And we're gonna go check out their situation. The thing about living in Prishtina is that even if you're just going about your day, the day will come when you stumble upon a pack of tiny puppies in the middle of the street. This happens way more often than you can imagine. When the day comes that this does eventually happen, your options will be limited. Either you look the other direction and don't even think about it, pretend it never happened, not to let it ruin your day, which is what majority of people do. Or you try to send them to a shelter, but most of the shelters are already completely overcrowded. Or you kind of become their guardian angel and you just bring them food or put food outside your house or bring them water whenever you can. So in this case, that's exactly what I did. The mother was sheltering them outside an abandoned construction site, a house that was half done. I started to visit them every day to bring them water and food for their mother since they were still milking. This was January and the temperatures were dropping to -10 degrees. It was so cold that the water and the milk I brought them would freeze in just a matter of minutes. It's like -10 outside and I've just improvised this little house for the puppies. I made a little door and a towel. Hopefully we can help them survive a little longer. I brought them the box and they absolutely loved it. Every day when I visited them, they were cuddling inside of it. When the box got wet, I made them a bigger box and I bought them a blanket. The day after I brought them the bigger box, somebody removed everything. They took the box, they took the blue tarp underneath, the blanket, the food container. My guess is that it was the owner of the property. I can understand the sentiment of not wanting stray dogs on your property or home. However, this is a construction site that is not active. What kind of person has the heart to strip these puppies of the minimal safety they have? I get so heated just telling the story again. This really hit me hard. I don't know if it was so much the situation the puppies are in that I know is just a small fraction of all of the dogs and animals out there in their same situation. But I think I was more defeated by the actions of the person who went out of their way to just be an epic dickhead. People can truly be cruel. Then another day came. This next story is not for the faint of heart, so this is a warning that there is some difficult content. One day I was walking at the park minding my own business when I see a puppy so weak he could barely walk. I took him to the vet. We're gonna take him to the vet because he's like shaking. He looks like he's literally about to lay down and die. Hopefully we can, I don't know, feed him. Turns out he was positive with the virus, parvovirus, which is the biggest threat to puppies. If they're too weak, they will definitely not survive. I took him home with instructions from the vet to feed him water with a syringe. He died on my bathroom floor just 3 hours later. Digging a hole, at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday night to bury this puppy on the top of a hill was a night so emotional I will never forget. It's safe to say I have been growing thick skin when it comes to dealing with these feelings, but there are still times where it brings me down, because I don't see this so much as a sanitary problem, but more of a problem of empathy. What brings me down is thinking about all the people that passed this dog at the park and didn't even look twice. This is the reality that breaks my heart. I'm so glad you watched until the end. I hope those stories were moving, inspiring, or did something for you. And I'm also really sorry for ending on such a sad note. This is, after all, a very sad topic. But it's not going to be only about the sad parts. I aim to also focus on what's being done. And with the following videos, I will speak to the different players of the city, of the shelters, of the community who are doing a lot to tackle this major problem. If you enjoyed this kind of reporting style video, please let me know by giving this video a like and subscribing to my channel. And I cannot wait for you to see the next ones. So stay tuned for the next edition of this series. Thanks so much for watching. Ciao. Adios. Adios, mama. All right. Later.